Very nice to be here, and thank you for the invitation from Connect. I'm Rui Chen. I joined the pharmaceutical industry for in total 18 years, and now I'm the head of the clinical operation in Vicent Pharmaceutical. I was also IFPMA E6R3 implementation task force member, and in China, I'm also the CMAC clinical operation and quality committee member. I'm also the trainer of the study risk management in China industry. I'm now working with other friends to organize the DCT college in China. So before I joined the pharmaceutical industry, I'm a doctor and I'm working in academic sites before. So I know today the audience will cover from health authority, the inspector, and also those key investigators from academic sites. So I'm looking very forward to have this exchange with you, not only about the career local practice, clinical practice, but also your feedback for the E6R3. Since for IFPMA group, we are continue to polish our training materials. Thank you all. Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm very happy to have this exchange with all of you regarding E6R3 subtitle to ensure the quality in action, risk-based monitoring, and the QMS in practice. A quick disclaimer, as always, this presentation only reflects the experience and opinions of myself and not attributed to IFPMA or any organization I was employed or affiliated. So the agenda will be separate to three parts. I will first go through the key changes of E6R3 related to RBM and QMS, then share the two cases separately. I know people are always focusing on how to do and what to do, but sometimes forget to focus on why. So not sure whether you are clear about the background and the reasons of the transformation of ICH-GCP. I want to elaborate a little bit here. You know, in 1996, there was the first version of ICH-GCP released. That was a very classic Bible in the industry. At the early beginning, the clinical trial was conducted in few sites, in single type of the sites, for example, the academic clinical practice with high standard. But over time, you know, there included the multiple sites in multiple countries, and the data becoming more complicated. So after 20 years, in 2016, ICH released E6R2. R2 directed the change to propose risk-based approach to letting sponsor to focus on the key risks related to the trial integrity, patient protection, and also the data quality. While since the world is keeping changing, and now you know the full industry R&D landscape has changed a lot. Firstly, there was a lot of innovative and creative adaptive design, especially in oncology, especially in immuno-oncology, when one indication could be quickly extended to others. So we are now moving away from traditional sequential phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 trial to with more adaptive design. And also within COVID and after COVID, the decentralized elements has been quickly developed in EU and the US. Secondly, with the digitalization of the healthcare industry and also, you know, the artificial intelligence use, especially those wearable device, the sensible device, with the new technology, we can get more empowerment for our clinical trial moving to next generation. Then thirdly, after so many years, you know, the clinical trial burden are becoming more and more high. You know, the industry is calling for the flexibility and agility in clinical trial execution. In R3, the proportionate has been repeated for 21 times compared with only twice in R2. During this change, ICH also organized some feedback collection from key stakeholders. Even the KOL from worldwide complained that the too much resources dedicated in those unvaluable tasks like the signatures, the redundant paperwork. So we need to find a way to do trials in a smart. And also with new data sources, including the patient-generated data, the data collected also from the digital health tools, those remote assessment from the physician-reported outcomes, to leveraging those new data, things especially from the real world. We have to identify a universal accepted format or standard to formulate these multiple resources. Otherwise, it will becoming a biggest impediment to large-scale using of the existing data in healthcare for clinical trial. So with above different reasons, in 2017, ICH released a reflection letter on GCP renovation to modernize the E8 and E6. The E8 is the general consideration of clinical trial. It serves as a general roadmap to cover all the ICH guidance concerning the clinical trials. In E8 revision incorporated the most updated concept for achieving the fit for purpose data quality, and also included the quality by design as the essential consideration during the start planning. And also E8 included the CTQ factors with details. E8 also specified the comprehensive cross-references between the ICH guidelines, such as ICH E5, E6, E17, E9, and other series of S, etc. While the E6 modernization applying the foundation of E8, the targeting to holistically address the planning and the conduct of different types of the clinical trial, and also allowing the flexibility, and also we are targeting the proportionate to the risks. So for these slides, I think we already covered most of the rationale and the background of the revision. You can see in the right side, like the first version released in 1996, then it's 2016, and then E6R3 was finalized in January 2025. If we needed to quickly elaborate the key points of E6R3 should be the first is the QBD. For QBD, we only need to remember two keywords. The first is perspective. You need to do the well planning. The second was multidiscipline. Since QBD cannot be finished with mono function, it should have cross-function collaboration. And E6R3 needed to involve critical thinking, since every time we should challenge ourselves, was that necessary? Was that enough? To keep asking the question to ourselves, and also to utilize the proportionate and the risk-based approaches. And we should be clear that one size does not fit all. For example, for the DCT, everybody is talking about DCT, but DCT cannot fit all the clinical studies. For example, if the study is CAR-T design, we cannot conduct it in DCT elements. So this slide also reinforce we don't read E6R3 in isolation. We at least should combine the E8R1 and also to combine the Declaration of Helsinki released in 2024. And for the revised structure, R3 keep the key section for introduction for principle of ICH GCP, but the principle of ICH GCP had been rewrite actually in R3. And the Annex 1 has replaced the E6R2, and the key section like the EC investigator and the sponsor was keep the same with minor change, and add a new section for data governance. For the data governance part is to include those new technology and those electronic data, how to use that, and also those computerized system. For the appendix, for Appendix A, the IB, and Appendix B, the clinical trial protocol and protocol amendments is as original with minor change. But Appendix C, regarding the records, it had changed a lot. So there was also an Annex 2, which has completed the public consultation process. And with the complicated pre-work in Annex 1, we can expect that Annex 2 could be quicker released. We can expect it will be released in end of this year, maybe. This is a very typical house picture of E6R3 with the foundation of the principle of GCP and the separate 2 rooms. The left room was the Annex 1 to focus on the consideration for interventional clinical trials, while the Annex 2 will be focusing on 3 elements, including the decentralized elements and the pragmatic. Secondly is the pragmatic trials, and the thirdly is the real-world data. Then if you ask what's new for E6R3 regarding RBM and QMS, I would summarize as this. They include the language to facilitate the innovation in clinical trial design and technology and operational approach. They also set a foundation through the adopt of the QBD and the proportionate risk-based approaches for the sponsor and the investigator responsibility in such an involving clinical trial ecosystem. And also encourage the fit-for-purpose approach to proportionately and risk-based approach, focus on the clinical trial CTQs through fullness in the design and conduct. And another 2 is to avoid unnecessary burden and also to keep proportionately. Just like we mentioned before, proportionate had been repeated for 21 times compared with only twice in R2. In next following 8 slides, I will quickly go through the key examples of the change in R3. So first, for QBD, the concept is based on the ICH E8R1 in the general principle mentioned that the quality is the primary consideration and it could be improved through the prospective attention to the design. So to align the E8R1 in E6R3, add a new principle 6. The quality should be built into the scientific and operational design and the conduct of the trial, and the quality should fit for purpose. And then for fit for purpose, also in the Annex 1 sponsor section, there are a couple of times have been mentioned about the fit for purpose. So the range and the index of oversight should be fit for purpose. The data acquisition tools should be fit for purpose, and also the system used or deployed should be fit for purpose. Regarding the avoid of unnecessary burden, also in the sponsor section, in the monitoring part, highlighted the centralized monitoring, including the decentralized settings. And also the frequency of the monitoring activity should based on the identified risk, should be modified as appropriate using the knowledge gained. And the monitoring could include the remote and the secure, the read-only access. And also for the monitoring plan, also highlighted that the monitoring strategy should consider the site capability and the potential burden. Even in the draft Annex 2, in the safety assessment section, highlighted that the safety information with decentralized and pragmatic elements could coming from different sources, and the safety information should be provided in an actionable manner. The RBQM concept, it's coming from R2, and in R3 further advanced this concept, since risk-based approach is more like to answer the question of how in R2, while in R3, the further advanced to answer the question of why, since the methods used to assure and control the quality of trial should be proportionate to the risk inherent in the trial and the importance of the information collected. how to link the RBQM and the QBD. In E8R1, the QBD already added. So how to link the RBQM with QBD, in the early design phase, how to implementing the CTQ factors, we should consider the engagement of the stakeholder and also sufficiently consider the benefit and the risk of the investigational product and the trial interventions. During the study design, we should secure the study objective was meaningful to answer the regulatory questions. For sure, we have to protect the patient participants' rights and safety and secure the study team was well qualified and get sufficient training needs. The data collected should meet the study objective, not just collect as much as possible. And we should have the minimized bias setting also in the beginning. The risk-based approach for trial management, it's also a continuation of RBQM concept in R2. In Annex 1, the sponsor section was mentioned that we should have the risk proportionate approach. And also in the principle, Chapter 7 mentioned that the trial process measures and approach should be proportionate. Even the risk to the CTQs should be managed proactively and adjust when new or unanticipated issue arise. The risk-based approach to quality management in the QA section and the QC section mentioned the risk-based strategy, and even in the audit section also highlighted the audit should be conduct that is proportionate to the risks. And in the data lifecycle elements, highlighted that audit trial should be risk-based and adapt to individual trial. There was a very interesting discussion when the training was delivered in China market. There was a vendor, ECOA vendor, asked how to manage the audit trials. I think sometimes they ask to keep the most updated version of the ECOA, while some trials should keep all the audit trials. So the answer was, it depends. If you are managing clinical development for a product related to mental disease, keep all the audit trials for ECOA was quite important since, patient with mental disease, they will frequently change the ECOA answer. Even for the same question, they will change and with different answers. But when the investigator review all these change, different version of the ECOA, it will be important for them to evaluate the mental situation for this patient. But for other indication, maybe that's not the case. So really be risk-based and adapt to individual trial. Lastly, about the proportionate, as we mentioned before, repeated in 21 times here. So I just list some example here. In the introduction section in R3, I mentioned that the trial process and the risk mitigation strategy should be proportionate to the importance of the data. And in the investigator section and also sponsor section also mentioned the level of the investigator oversight should be proportionate. The actions taken in relation to the deviations for sponsor should be proportionate. The non-compliance with the protocol should lead to proportionate actions. And also the requirement for the computerized system should be proportionate. So a quick overview for the guideline, and now we're coming to the case sharing part. First is RBM. If we review the RBM progression, we can separate into in 3 different generations. The first generation is before 2016 normally. It was a traditional monitoring to conduct the on-site visit to do 100% of SDV with manually review for high cost. And after 2016 to 2022 about is the first generation of RBM to have interactively centralized and on-site and remote monitoring, and to conduct one-size-fits-all approach for the targeted SDV and SDR with reduced cost. Then since 2023, with the ICH E6 E8 and E6 revision, and with the advanced technology, we coming to the second generation of RBM. It's can trigger the data-driven monitoring. Since with the new technology, we can do the AI-enabled data-driven decision making, and the SDV and SDR was proportionate and risk-based, so we can target a precise dynamic monitoring frequency. On the key elements for the efficient monitoring, starting from the proactively predict the key risk indicator at site level and country level first, then we can transform from those previous random SDV to a risk proportionate data-driven SDV. And then the final goal was to transform from the fixed frequency of monitoring to a data-driven dynamic frequency. In Translate, the definition of RBM was an adaptive approach that directs monitoring, focus, and activities to the involving areas of greatest need, which have the most potential to impact patient safety and data quality. How to do the proportionate to risk SDV? During the site selection, we will have a preliminary assess for the risk level and to determine the site's SDV plan based on the site's historic data. And then after the site initiated, we can dynamically adjust the SDV level based on the patient's real-time risk level with the RBM data transcription risk model. So we first define the KRIs, including those incremental and cumulative analysis, and then we can assess the risk level at patient level and the indicator level or even the site level. And then we can do the patient level risk stratification or site level risk stratification with those unsupervised machine learning model, but can consider the different stage and conclude if it's a high risk, then trigger a high rate of SDV. If it's a low risk, trigger a low rate of SDV. Then CI can perform the SDV based on the RBM guide. A case sharing for the data-driven SDV. So that is a patient at patient level. The initial, it's a low rate SDV, and then in April, it was upgraded through the RBM signal tool to evaluate it should be a high rate SDV, which means it will trigger an SDV from CRA. And then 2 months later, in June, it was downgraded to the low rate SDV. So the CI conduct the SDV and identify the critical missing data and request the site to improve while ultimately resolve the potential risk. So if we conduct a study level simulation, we can see the map here. The horizontal axis was time around the study, while the vertical axis was the number of patients in critical. So we compared the current model and the previous model. We can see in previously it was a linear increase with the time, while in the data-driven model, you can see it was fluctuated based on the needs. So a high rate of SDV is only needed for those sites with risks to improve the data quality, while compared with the previous process, the previous one-size-fits-all process, the non-essential SDV is reduced by 20%. So based on the data-driven SDV, we can target a data-driven monitoring visit. So based on the DMP, DVP, and the monitoring plan, also the RBM plan setup instruction, we can identify the critical process and critical data, and then to conduct the risk assessment at different sites. We have site A and site B here. So after the signal detection and the modeling, we use the RBM tool to evaluate the risk and to do the predictive monitoring work. You can see different sites have different intervals between the on-site visit and the off-site visit. And also RBM can trigger those ad hoc monitoring visits based on the risk level evaluation. So we can adopt a risk-based approach here with this tool to focus efforts on the sites that are in the greatest needs of the oversight. So that's the first case regarding RBM, and then coming to our second case for QMS. Before coming to the QMS, we quickly summarize the RBQM concept in R3. It was a proportionate risk-based approach for the quality management, and including the risk identification, evaluation, control, communication, review, and reporting. So the risk control should proportionate to the importance of the risks, and also we should set the pre-specified acceptable range, for example, the QTL. And then finally, to report those key deviations for the QTL and the remedial actions taken in the final CSR. So how to understand and how to understand the relationship between the RBQM, RBM, QBD, PDCA, CTQ, KI, and QTL. A lot of abbreviation here, right? So we can use the Transcelerate very classic RBQM cycle. So the Q, the blue Q here is RBQM. And in the downside of the cycle, you can see the different function involved, including clinical operations, data science, drug safety, and regulatory. So the QMS were setting based on above. And the QBD concept is underpinning the full RBQM system. And in the middle, you can see a line, it's a very classic PDCA cycle. But in this picture, they use a line. But actually, after plan, conduct, check, and act, you will need to recycle to plan the next trial and conduct, check, and act, do the kappa again. So where is RBM? RBM is for the check steps to do the risk-based data monitoring. So to better understanding the key components of RBQM, we can see the right side, the picture. It's also coming from Transcelerate. The QBD was the key concept throughout the trial, starting with the protocol design and the identification of CTQ, through to the monitoring of critical data and the critical process during the ongoing phase. And we need to perform the risk assessment and define the QTL at trial level and also KRI at site level and the country level. Then finally, to report those important QTL deviation in the CSR. For your better understanding for the CTQ, QTL and the KRI, for example, at study level, we will set the CTQ as the withdrawal criteria and the patient retention. Right, and at trial level, the QTL means the number of patients withdraw consent from this study, and then the KRI will be the patient presents to withdraw consent at site level. So, okay, and then with all these concepts, then we can come to the QMS. QMS is also this was coming from Transcelerate too. The QMS is an integrated system through which organization can systematically plan and achieve the quality objectives linked to the broader strategic goals. For clinical development, since today's audience was also the key stakeholders for the clinical development. So CQMS is our focus, while CQMS is an integrated framework through which organizations systematically define the quality objectives linked to the broader strategic goals. For this framework, it's also a very typical CQMS framework. We normally call that 4+7+2 framework. The four foundation here stand including those business contacts, the internal and the external business contact. Then second was the leadership commitment to quality. So we needed to have the culture of the quality in the organization. And we have to have the organizational commitment to quality, which means the quality means to everybody in the organization. And we needed to continue improve the framework. So that's the four foundation. We also have 7 key elements for the CQMS, including the process, the set up the end-to-end SOP to fit for the clinical development needs. And we should have the resource, we should have the material and the people in place to fit for the business purpose. And for the partnering, we should build up the strategic relationship with our external service. The risk management, we should keep the proactive way instead of a reactive way, right? For the issue management, we should have the kappa methodology also as daily work. And the knowledge management, it should be lessons learned the cross different pipelines to share the experience. And also the documentation should keep in good quality for inspection readiness. And that's the seven key elements for the CQMS. And we also have since the CQMS should be evaluated, we need to assessing that and also have the management review. There were three key words for CQMS. It's proactive, risk-based, and flexible. So to take one startup company as an example, firstly, so QMS, first level was organization level. We should set up the QMS based on the company business needs. For example, if this company were starting from the potential molecule to candidate drug to clinical development and final commercial launch, then that means we should set up an integrate QMS to cover different GHRPs to meet minimum health authority requirements. And with the organizational QMS, since the organizational QMS setup are just to keep in mind the key components of the 4+7+2 framework. And then coming to the CQMS, since another level of CQMS is at trial level. Since I'm coming from clinical development department, and since today's audience was also focused here, so I prefer to use one phase 3 study as an example to introduce how to set up the CQMS at trial level. So first, we should set up within study team quality oversight by different functions. Then on top of that, we should have an independent QA team to do the quality oversight. So within study team, we have the CPA to conduct the TMF review based on the TMF planning to secure the document level quality management. And then at site level, we have CRA to conduct the site visit based on the monitoring plan to ensure the compliance. And we have project manager to conduct the site level oversight and the vendor level oversight, and also the trial oversight based on the PMP and the vendor management plan to secure the project level quality management. And if we have CRM in this study, then the CRM will do the co-visit with the CRAs to secure the people level well qualified to do the work we needed. And the clinical science data manager and the biostat should do the centralized data review per DMP, data surveillance plan, PD plan, medical review plan, or etc., to secure the data level and the medical level, the quality management. And PV will conduct the safety monitoring per safety monitoring plan to secure the safety level quality management. And normally, we will have QC within the study team. Then the QC can do the independent review, both from project perspective and the people perspective based on different tier level of the sites, then provide feedback and secure the study team was well trained from a QC perspective. That's the study level. Within the study team, we set up a solid quality management system. And then on top of that, we have the independent QA team can conduct the TMF audit, site audit, and the vendor audit to check the quality and also secure the CAPA was followed on track. Even before the study start, QA can support the vendor for qualification. That's another level of QMS. So with all this setting up, we can say we have a integrate CQMS setting at trial level. So remember the PDCA cycle for CQMS that through the plan to do, then the check through audit and quality metrics, and then do the CAPA and recycling, we can secure the people are qualified, the process are well controlled, and the system, the trial was well validated. And then we can systematically assure that the product delivered with high quality. So now coming to the end of my presentation, that's the last slide. To do a quick summary, for those not be changed towards the GCP foundation and the GCP principles. For those, what need to be changed is our mindset, and we need to upgrade our capability to catch up the new ecosystem in the new generation. You know, the E6R3 calls for the critical thinking. We should always ask ourselves, is that enough? Is that sufficient? And is that necessary? And also keep flexibility to avoid those unnecessary burden. If you ask me to provide some suggestion, I would say please pay attention to the health authority updates and proactively participate in the industry exchange and the training like today's webinar, and to keep learning continuously and enhance our capability. So that's all for today's sharing. I keep my personal contact information here. If you have any question needed to further discuss, feel free to contact. That's all. Thank you.